Hello. Hello. You can see my new cactus. That's pretty cool. See if anyone joins. Let's put my microphone in. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, welcome. Hi, Stephen. How are you? Thank you for joining. I think that's good. Okay. Hello, how is everyone? Thank you for joining. I am vertical again. Hi, Miles. I'm trying to get, for some reason my studio isn't working. My live studio on my computer. So hopefully I get that taken care of soon. And then we won't have to be vertical. Wait, what is today? Today's Tuesday. Oh my gosh. I was getting ready to say happy Wednesday. Hello. I'll get started here in just a minute. Give people a few seconds to hop on. It's Flag Day? How did I not know it? Is it really Flag Day? I didn't know it was Flag Day. I didn't. Happy Flag Day. It is Flag Day. Do I look dark? Let's see. Where's my light? That. Okay, that's a little better. Yeah, it's Flag Day. It commemorates the adoption of the flag of the United States on June 14th, 1777, by resolution of the Second Continental Congress. Happy Flag Day. Do people celebrate Flag Day? Are you celebrating Flag Day? Why is that there? I don't like that. Okay, sorry. Let's get started. So I started this out by saying, or I titled this light is really gonna bother me. Hold on, you guys. Okay, that's what I want. Why does it keep going out? Okay. Daily Caller says only 5 Democrats would support Biden. Well, you know, I saw that. Hello. I actually saw that Bernie Sanders said that he would support Biden if Joe Biden ran in 2024. I don't know how that's humanly possible. The man, it just seems like he's getting worse and worse. The interview that he did with Jimmy Kimmel was so sad. It was basically Jimmy Kimmel trying to protect Biden from himself, which is what one would do with an elderly parent or grandparent who is mentally declining, is what that reminded me of. It was very sad. I don't know how it's humanly possible for him to run again. Anyway, I titled this, am I actually agreeing with Rachel Maddow? I was quite shocked at this segment on Rachel's show. So, as you know, the January 6th hearings have been happening. They actually were postponed. I believe it's tonight they were postponed because oh my gosh, this is going to absolutely Trump's birthday. Oh, it was Trump's birthday today, wasn't it? And it's on Flag Day. I see what you're saying. I see what you're doing there. This is gonna drive me crazy. It's okay. They were actually postponed, and they said they're check power. No, it's not that. It's not the power. I know what it is, but I can't really fix it right now. I might just have to deal with that. Is it all the way up? See, wait, I think I can get it. The problem is I have a lot of cords right here. I'm a bit messy when it comes to cords and electronics. I don't always take the best care of them. Maybe that's why everything... Okay. I think that's cool. That will work. Will it? No. Yeah, it's like... Oh, gosh. I'm a mess. All right, I'm sorry about this. Little intermission. Ooh. Okay. Did that work? Maybe it did work. Anyway, the January 6th hearings have been happening, and they already postponed them. I actually think it's because they're not getting very good ratings, and it's not the big success or the big bombshell revelations that they thought they were going to be. And quite frankly, I think most people just don't really care. And what's really funny, I saw a quote that said, it's crazy, the J6 hearings are going on, and literally no conservatives or Republicans are even talking about it. They're not mad about it. Nobody's talking about it, which I don't think is what they intended. I thought that they thought this was going to be a huge distraction, that there was going to be a lot more public interest, and there's just not. People are really upset about the gas prices. We've had 18 days in a row of some of the highest gas prices in history. People are upset about that. People are worried about an oncoming recession. You even have Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO of JP Morgan, saying that we are going to head into an absolute economic hurricane. That is what people are concerned about. They don't care about January 6th, and quite frankly, they're not showing anything new. So that's what's happening with January 6th. And then this was, I could not believe this. So this is Rachel Maddow, and she makes a very good point. I cannot believe this is actually Rachel Maddow saying this, and I can't believe that I'm agreeing with her. But here she is.
Did the initial... Just the key point that yes, there was a pro-Trump rally at which the president spoke, and we can absolutely talk about all the things the president said there. But the idea that rally is the thing that got out of hand and that somehow resulted in the breaching of the Capitol, that rally was very far from the Capitol. Yes. And the people who, as you say, did the initial breach that allowed everybody else to come in, they never even went to that rally.
So she's actually right, and this is a point that should be brought up more. So they're accusing Trump of inciting what happened at the Capitol. But when you actually look at the timeline, so they said that he did it when he told them to go march to the Capitol, that's basically when he was inciting what happened. Well, two things are wrong with that. One, when they play that in the hearings, they won't play the rest of the clip where he says, march peacefully to the Capitol, where he urges them to be peaceful. What they also will conveniently leave out is the fact that the timelines don't add up. The original people that broke into the Capitol were not even anywhere near Donald Trump when he was giving that speech. They couldn't even hear him. They were far away. And I believe they started breaking into the Capitol, correct me if I'm wrong, but while he was speaking. So the people that left his speech, that marched peacefully, right, that he said initially broke in, and didn't even hear him say that. So, or the ones that were at the Capitol didn't even hear him say that. And I could not believe she actually made that point, and she's right. But they won't tell you that. And that's another reason I think that people are just don't care about these hearings, because there are a lot of things that they could investigate and that I have a lot of questions about. As far as like, was there FBI involvement? Who is Ray Epps? Where are those 10,000 hours of surveillance video that have never been released? Those are the real questions, and none of those are being answered in the hearing. So I don't think public interest is there, and I don't think these bombshells that they thought they had that were going to hit so hard and blow everyone's mind, I don't think it went exactly how they thought it was going to go. Oh, thank you so much, Gregory Jones. Thank you. What did you say? Just throw a C note at the gas cashier and pray. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate the donation. Yeah, I just don't think the public interest is there. And I think that they thought they would at least have a lot of liberal interest, and they don't really have that either, because that's just not what people are concerned about right now. It's just not. It's almost insulting to even put that on people, given everything that's happening with inflation, with gas prices, and all of that right now. It's not only is there not public interest, it's a bit of an insult, I think, to regular people to think that there would be interest. Anyway, one thing is kind of good. So, over a month after the leak of a Supreme Court draft opinion suggesting the court plans to overturn R versus W, the United States House of Representatives has finally passed a bill to provide security for the families of the Supreme Court justices. News that the bill passed the House also comes over a month after the legislation passed the Senate, and about a week after authorities arrested a man near the home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. That man claimed that he intended to off the justice, authorities said. Authorities arrested Nicholas John Rosk, 26, of Simi Valley, California, in the Washington suburb of Chevy Chase. That's a cool name. Maryland, early in the morning on June 8th, a Department of Justice affidavit details how Rosk allegedly traveled to Kavanaugh's home armed with weapons and burglary tools with the intent to kill the justice and prevent him from ruling on the Second Amendment and abortion cases. The Supreme Court safety legislation, which passed the House in a 396-27 vote, according to the Washington Post, now heads to the desk of President Joe Biden. All 27 votes against the bill were Democrats. And remember, they didn't even, a lot of these Democrats did not even condemn the fact that this ruling was leaked, or this draft of the ruling was leaked, and they didn't condemn the fact that someone showed up at Kavanaugh's home with intentions to off him. They never condemned these things. The only thing that they would condemn is the draft itself. That's what they condemned. That's why you can't really take them seriously when they say that they don't like violence. They only don't like some violence. They only don't like the violence that can push any of their political narratives. Senate Republicans had threatened Monday evening that they would block a different House bill that sought to protect the families of Supreme Court staffers rather than the families of the Supreme Court justices. The security issue is related to the Supreme Court justices, not to nameless staff that no one knows. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Kentucky Republican, told reporters Monday evening. Hours after this, the Washington Post reported Democrats changed their course, with House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer saying the Senate's bill is the only thing that can pass, frankly, and we want to get it done. And the reason why this is so important is you cannot have justices on the Supreme Court afraid to make appropriate rulings because of people coming to their homes. Democrats love to talk about the attack on democracy. That actually is an attack on democracy. or that is an attack on how our country works. You have to have Supreme Court justices who are objective and who stick to the rule of law. You can't have them being intimidated by the public. You just can't. On Monday, for the third time, GOP House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy requested unanimous consent to expedite the passage of a security bill to protect the Supreme Court justices. McCarthy emphasized that there is no reason to delay the proposal, asking for immediate consideration in the House. His request was declined. I do not understand why we would risk that, McCarthy said in remarks Monday afternoon, pointing out that the bill was introduced more than a month ago. I do not understand why you'll make sure that the Capitol is protected right now, knowing that something could happen, or something could happen at the Supreme Court this week, but you won't protect those justices. They love to do that. They love to protect themselves, not so much others. McCarthy also drew on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's Thursday claim that the justices are protected, a remark that came only a few days after Ross' arrest. So Nancy got asked about this a few days after this person was arrested outside of Kavanaugh's home. And Pelosi said the issue is not about the justices, it's about the staff and the rest, explaining why the House would be voting on Supreme Court security bill the following week. The justices are protected. You saw the Attorney General even double down on that. And McCarthy said, how can you make a statement like that same week? So it did eventually pass. A lot of Democrats did not vote for it. And it says a slew of Democratic lawmakers voted Tuesday against a bill that would expand protections for Supreme Court justices and their families following the arrest of a man who claimed he wanted to off Brett Kavanaugh. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one of the people that did not vote for the bill, and she actually made an Instagram live where she basically admits it and kind of gloats about the fact that she didn't vote for this bill. And she says, they wouldn't vote for, they wouldn't pass a bill to protect school children. So why should I vote for a bill? What is Mad Cow Richard doing now? Actually, it's something I agreed with. I'll tell you again in a minute. AOC is basically saying, I'm not voting for this bill because I didn't get what I wanted. You didn't vote for my bill, so I'm not going to vote for this, is basically what she said. Rachel Maddow was making the point that a lot of Democrats try to say that Trump incited January 6th by his speech, but Rachel Maddow actually made the point that the people that breached the Capitol, the original people that breached the Capitol, were not even anywhere near Trump's speech when he was making it and couldn't even hear him, which is actually, she's right, that's true, and that's a good point. And what's really scary about all of this is the same thing happened in 2020. They didn't condemn all the rioting that were happening. They would not condemn violence that happened towards their opponents. And to me, quite frankly, seeing all these January 6th hearings after they allowed how many cities and buildings to burn down the whole summer of 2020, some of the same people that were so appalled, especially AOC, who's still so traumatized, even though she wasn't even in the building. She was not in the Capitol building when this happened. And she got evacuated from her building, like way before this even happened, I think. And she was so traumatized by January 6th. Yet she was the same one who tweeted out during the BLM riots where 24 people passed away, where people's livelihoods got burned down, over 1,000 officers injured, $1 billion in property damage, many of those being small buildings. She said, protesting should make people uncomfortable. It shouldn't be comfortable. And then something happens close to her. All of a sudden, it's so traumatizing, and oh my gosh, it's an attack on our democracy, and it's insulting, is what it is. She's just the worst. She's the worst. Someone asked I just saw it. Okay, so somebody just asked the question to give my opinion on Fox News having a segment about a transgender child. So here's what happened. This is from a Christian magazine, I think. Oh no, this is the Federalist. Just kidding. So it says Fox News viewers, prominent Christians, and conservative pundits publicly bombarded the network Friday after it aired a glowing news segment promoting a 14-year-old girl named Ryland, whose parents began pushing her to dress like a boy when she was an infant. We highlight the story of Ryland Whittington, whose journey of transitioning at age 5 has been seen by 7 million people in a family YouTube video. Host Dana Perino began introducing the segment. Correspondent Brian Linus has a story about a family that hopes their experience can help others. The programming block was shown as a part of the network's advertised Pride Month series. Before Ryland could even speak, he managed to tell his parents that he is a boy. This, he continued, inspired their parents to begin gender experimentation on the child. Linus concluded the section by praising the family's extraordinary courage and thanking them for coming on the show, particularly at a time when transgender issues have been politicized. Called me old-fashioned, but I prefer when my conservative news outlets don't encourage parents to trans their little children. Yeah, I really don't like that. I'm really shocked that that was on Fox News, to be honest with you. I think, if you have a child that wants to dress as a boy or this or that, what's really concerning too is we're having these actual conversations, especially on the heels of the What is a Woman documentary, where they interviewed some gender affirming therapists and some of these individuals that prescribe puberty blockers and things like that. And I think it really highlighted how bad this is for young kids. And the fact that Fox News had this on is a little bit scary because that's how it starts. First, it's just a segment. I don't know why they did it. I don't know whose idea this was. I actually really like Dana Perino. But I'm glad they got backlash about it. This is clearly a corporation pandering. And it's pretty shocking, to be honest, that this was on Fox. And I don't think it's healthy for young children to be transitioning. You are still growing as a child. You're still figuring out things. Things are confusing, especially when you start going through puberty. When I was a little girl, I remember I asked my mom if I was supposed to be a boy because my dad was a race car driver and I liked to hang out in the garage with him and watch him build race cars. I liked to play and get dirty. And it was just those two little things. I was like, Mom, am I supposed to be a boy? And she was like, no, you're not. And that was it. That was the end of my questioning. Imagine if my mom was one of those like hyper woke parents. This is what a few other people said. You're done with me now. Angry viewer, stony to the point. Stop pushing the woke trans abuse of children. The media is the enemy of the people. That includes Fox News now, too. Nobody needs your propaganda. You do have to remember that. I think on the live stream asked me, they were like, would you ever want to work for Fox News? And I actually said no on the live stream because you do have to remember that Fox News is still a corporate media. They're still a large corporate media outlet. And you have to remember that. I like Fox, but sometimes I watch it out of just entertainment or just to get a few points on things. I like Tucker Carlson. He's probably my favorite on Fox News. I like Fox Nation a lot. They have really good stuff on Fox Nation if you're a member, but always remember they still are a big corporate media outlet. So I take a lot of things not with a grain of salt, but I just always have that in the back of my head. So in a sense, yeah, I'm surprised it was on there, that segment, but then again, I'm not, because Fox News has done things in the past that I didn't like, and they're going to try that pandering. They're not, and I get all my news from independent outlets. I actually joke with people because people find out that I have more Republican or conservative views. They'll say, oh, where do you get your information? Fox News? And my honest answer to that is no. By the time it makes it on Fox News, it's usually not news to me anymore, because I follow a lot of independent journalists that are actually some of their news sources. But I like getting my news from people, independent journalists, or people that just tell you the facts, people that are on the ground showing you things, and people that are questioning. That to me was just corporate pandering that they were doing for Pride Month. And it wasn't a good look. Here's Allie Beth Stuckey, who I think this tweet got her temporarily banned from Twitter. What type of racing? My dad raced, he started racing go-karts when I was a baby. And then when I was about 3 years old, he started racing stock cars in Georgia. So Allie Beth Stuckey, I believe, was banned on Twitter for saying this. She says, I am stunned that Fox News ran a segment celebrating a girl whose parents transitioned her into a boy when she was 5 because apparently she told them that she was a boy before she could talk. Absolutely maddening and heartbreaking. Yeah. And somebody also retweeted her tweet. They said this. This person said, you'll find no bigger defender of Fox News than me, especially opposing viewpoints on which differentiates it from all other cable and broadcast news. However, this was a terrible decision given everything we know about the current social contagion of trans issues with children. Yeah, it was even more shocking that this came out after What is a Woman. That's what really, really shocked me, because there was a lot of What is a Woman was such a brilliant documentary, and it was so brilliant the way that Matt Walsh did it, and I really do think he's probably one of the only ones that could have gotten away with some of these interviews just because of his demeanor and his style of asking questions. But that really, really exposed how hollow this ideology is, especially when it comes to kids. So I think I was even more shocked to see that segment after the success of What is a Woman. Yeah, a lot of people were not happy about this. One person says Fox News just ran a segment on the joys of helping young children transition gender on America's newsroom. Fox News is now openly promoting child bad things. I can't say the whole thing. And I don't know if I ever told you all this story, but I used to work with teenagers. I worked at a psychiatric hospital for children and adolescents. I worked with the teens. I did that in Virginia when I lived here a long time ago. And then I worked at a place called the Family Crisis Center in Denver, Colorado. And I think that was, I worked there in 2000. I'm trying to think the exact year this was. It was either 2012 or 2013 that I really started to see a lot more young people identify as trans. We would have several girls on our unit. So at that place, the crisis center, it was a place. It was supposed to be a place where children that were abused or neglected went. So we were like a temporary placement while maybe they were doing family therapy or they were looking for a longer term placement or foster care or something like that. And I worked on the girls unit, and we had a lot of different kinds of staff. So we had direct care staff, we had counselors, we had social workers, we had therapists, and we had advocates. And both of the advocates that we had working there, the advocates' job, they would basically develop a rapport with the kids and then just kind of advocate for the kids, and connect the kids to resources, connect the kids to like nonprofits that could be beneficial or helpful to the kids and stuff like that. So they actually had a cool position. One of the advocates was, this is really interesting, and myself and this advocate were actually hired at the same time. We went through training together, and we were actually good. We weren't friends where we hung out at site of work, but we were work friends in work because we went through training together. And this individual was a biological female who identified as a male, but who also did drag at night, would do drag shows. And which I still think, I don't think there's anything wrong with drag. I just don't think it's for kids. And I remember like wanting to go see a performance. I never ended up doing that. But I started noticing that a lot of our teenage girls would identify as boys, and some of them would want to wear boy clothes, and some of them would want to go by a boy name, which I had no problem with. Our kids were dealing with a lot of family issues, a lot of issues that most of us adults have never dealt with. So to me, that was small potatoes. I'm like, if that's helping you, we're a transitionary place. If that's helping you get through what you need to get through to move on, then we'll do that. We have bigger fish to fry. So some of them would wear boy clothes and go by boy names. But my view on it is, we have these teenagers. These teenagers are dealing with a lot of family issues. Some of them had drug, alcohol issues, abuse issues, neglect issues, just a lot of problems that they're dealing with. And a lot of them also on top of that, just being a teenager and having hormones and going through changes and being a crazy person, because all teenagers are crazy people. I was a crazy person when I was a teenager. But then I remember we would have weekly meetings with the therapists and the advocates and the social workers and the supervisors, direct care workers, teachers sometimes would come to the meetings. The advocates started coming to the meetings and started advocating for, I'll tell you one story about one girl in particular. So we had a girl who wanted to identify as a boy, wore boy clothes. We called the girl by the boy name. And the reason I'm saying girl now is because this person didn't end up being trans. This was just a phase. And that's what really bothers me about all of this, because when you're a teenager, you go through phases. There was at one point when I was a teenager that I wanted to join the military. I wanted to be in the Air Force. Could you imagine me in the military? But I was dead set that I was going to be in the Air Force and that I was going to fly planes, or I don't know what I was going to do. But teenagers go through phases, and that's what really bothers me, because I do think there are people who are legitimately that have gender dysphoria, but I also think there's a big possibility that a lot of these teenagers are going through phases, and that's okay. That's what you do when you're a teenager. I had a lot of teenagers that were like emo, and they were into emo music, and they like all kinds of weird things that they were into, and they're teenagers. That's why it bothers me when people are so young that adults want to push all of these permanent things on them. Let them figure it out. Just let them, okay, you want to wear do it. I don't mind, but we're not going to do anything permanent. And I'm the same way with everything. I'm the same way with like piercings and tattoos, plastic surgery. None of that if you're a child. None of it. Because it's permanent and you're going to go through phases. It just bothers me. Why is it phobic to acknowledge that for some of these kids, this could be a phase, and allow it to play out and see if it's a phase? But anyway, back to the story. So the advocates started coming to our meetings and remember, this is back in like 2012, 2013. They started coming to our meetings and they kept pushing. They said, this individual, let's call the person Brian. Let's say this was a girl whose name was Brittany, and now Brittany is identifying as Brian. Brian is 15, by the way. Or 16, I can't remember. It was 15 or 16. So Brian wants to go play basketball with the boys unit when they have outside time. Okay, we were okay with that. So Brian would dress as a boy. Brian would eat lunch with the boys in the lunchroom. Brian started playing basketball with the boys when they would do their basketball time. Brian would also be able to go on outings to an LGBTQ like teen center where they would do like poetry. It was like an after school thing. So Brian was able to do all of these things. Keep in mind, we are a government facility and we're a transition facility. You're probably not going to be there more than a few weeks, is how we had our kids. So they started pushing for all these things. They just wanted more and more and more. One day, we're having a meeting and the advocates are there and they say, Brian wants to go on the boys' unit at nighttime. And that's where I drew the line. I was like, whoa, no, okay. Listen, we had a lot of girls who had trauma in their past from boys. We had a lot of boys who some were perpetrators. There's a bathroom on the unit. There's places that staff can't see. It's supposed to be only a boys' unit. This is like their residential unit where they sleep, where their bedrooms are, where their bathrooms are, where they do hygiene, like all of those things. And that's where in my head I was like, this is going too far. I'm okay with all of this other stuff, but this is pushing it too far. And I remember I was so young, I didn't know what any of this was. This was my first experience with a lot of this. And I noticed that the two adult advocates, one of them, the trans adult, they started getting really upset, and the one adult started crying in the meeting saying, this is for the kids, Brian wants to feel accepted. Brian, and what I'm thinking at the time is I'm like, we are accepting Brian. We're calling Brian Brian has a lot of privileges that not a lot of the other kids have. And in my mind, I'm like, look, we are a government facility. We have to go by biology in this instance because we could potentially be putting Brian in harm's way. Like, this is now a safety issue. But what I felt was happening is that these adults were projecting their own experiences onto Brian, the kid, and it was clouding their judgment, in my opinion, because if you are like a social worker, if you're a therapist, you're taught boundaries. And when you're working with a kid and you start getting emotional and you start crying in meetings, a few years ago, that would have been highly inappropriate. All of a sudden now, no one's saying anything, and this was actually allowed to happen. Well, long story short, thankfully, Brian was never in harm's way. I thought the decision was wrong. I didn't speak up. I was so young, and I was afraid to speak up because I was afraid that I was going to hurt this adult's feelings that was crying. It's just inappropriate. But that was in 2013. That was in 2012. Oh, long story short, Brian ended up not being trans. This was just a phase. So Brian ended up going back to Brittany, being a girl, and I think ended up being a teen mom. But that is an example of there was all of this madness, all of this pushing by adults to just keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. And all of these adults projecting either their own experiences or their own bias or their own ideologies. All of these adults were pushing this kid, and I could see it. I didn't know what any of this stuff was, but my instinct was like, this is wrong. And I had another coworker who thought the exact same as me, but both of us were just scared to say anything because we were scared that we were going to offend this adult. And now I saw what I saw in that room. It started out with just this one little instance, and now it's just everywhere. It's wild how quickly that grew, but this has been happening for a while, but it happens as a little instance. It happens, one little thing happens over here, and then one little thing happens over here, and then all of a sudden it grows and grows and grows, and it's more and more and more, and it's a lot of people pushing their ideologies onto children. And like with Brian, it was just a phase. I'm lost. It seems Britt wanted Brian. Well, so these are fake names, but this was a child whose name was essentially Brittany, but who decided that, who made a decision that she wanted to identify as a boy, so she asked us to call her Brian. So that's what all of this was about. Anyway, the whole thing ended up being a phase. Brittany went back to being Brittany and was not trans, was a heterosexual girl. And all of this happened, and a lot of this was pushed by adults, is what I'm saying. And I see it happening now, and it's wrong. Yeah, you missed it. Someone asked if I saw the crazy Canadian HR lady's TikTok. Yeah, we did a live stream where we looked at it. We watched it together. You missed it. In case anyone missed it, there was this HR lady. She worked in HR, and she lived in Canada, and she made this, it was like a 2.5-minute video talking about how if anyone disagreed with her ideologically, I think she was talking about the Canadian truckers. She was like, if any of you people are posting on your social medias, I don't know why I'm doing a southern accent. She was Canadian. I can't do a Canadian accent, but she was basically saying that if any of these freedom people are posting on their social medias, that they should be in trouble or they should be scared because she works in HR and she'll get them fired. Well, long story short, she's the one who ended up getting fired. Funny how that works out. Oh, karma. Poetic justice. Oh, did you hear about this? It was just on Tucker Carlson. So, Californians are actually moving to Mexico. Isn't that wild? Tucker, let's see what Tucker says. And then I'll read you a little bit of this story, but this is wild. I hope you liked that story. I don't know if I need to tighten up the way I told that, but that was a real life example of just adults pushing things onto kids. And I feel like that's what a lot of these people are doing. Mexico. I feel like a lot of adults are doing that. And we are forgetting that even not just teenagers, we are forgetting that kids have phases and do crazy things and say crazy things. We don't need to be pushing permanent, life-altering things on them. Okay. Hold on, I want to see what Tucker says about this. I have a frog in my throat. Hi, Steven. Why do I have a frog in my throat? Okay. Let's see what Tucker has to say. I wasn't even going to talk about this, but I read an article on this earlier about how Californians were moving to Mexico. And then this just popped up. Tucker Carlson, things are so bad in Joe Biden's America that thousands of Americans are voluntarily moving to third world country in the middle of brutal drug wars. A toad? Yeah, I have a toad in my throat. Have you ever had frog legs? I tried a frog leg once at a German restaurant. It tasted like chicken, but I only had one little bite. Okay. I hope this plays. Yeah, I think it will.
If you're looking at the country and thinking, how do we measure the health of the United States? There are pretty obvious ways to do it. The average life expectancy is one, the marriage rate, the effectiveness of the U.S. military, housing costs, the value of the U.S. dollar, the health of the financial markets, the safety of our streets, etc. By every single one of those very basic measures, the Biden administration has failed and done so dramatically. Biden isn't simply incompetent, though obviously he is. Biden is the single most destructive force in the history of the United States. In just a year and a half, Biden and Ron Klain, his strange, shadowy chief of staff, have done more damage to this country than anybody could possibly have imagined. We read the numbers every night, but they don't capture it. You know what captures it? This story. This story comes from the reliably liberal financial news outlet CNBC. Here's the second sentence of the piece. Quote, a rising number of former Californians are migrating out of the country altogether and are instead heading south of the border. Many are seeking a more relaxed and affordable lifestyle in Mexico. Yes, in Mexico, not Switzerland, Mexico. So things are so bad in Joe Biden's America that thousands of Americans are voluntarily moving to a third world country in the middle of a brutal drug war. Yes, there are human heads littering the side of the road in Acapulco, but at least it's not Los Angeles. Darryl Graham works in real estate in Mexico. He says of the people he sells to, quote, at least half are coming down from California. Suddenly the cost of taxes, the crime rates, the politics, all the things that people are unhappy with in California make them want to come down to Mexico. Another analyst who studies the trend at the Migration Policy Institute says so many Americans are relocating to Mexico right now that locals are being priced out of their own neighborhoods. So it's mass migration in reverse. It's pretty amazing. No matter how bad you thought this administration was going to be, you probably could not have imagined ever caravans of Biden refugees fleeing our country across the southern border looking for a better life in Mexico. At this rate, the next stop will be Port-au-Prince. See what you will about Haiti. It's better than Baltimore.
Yeah, so this was in the Daily Wire, which I was reading. Californians so unhappy they're fleeing to Mexico. Monthly rent in Mexico can average as little as $430 per month, while rents can average as high as $1,500 north of the border in San Diego. It's actually even higher in Los Angeles. I think for a decent place, depending on where you live, anywhere from $1,700 to $2,000. So isn't that wild? In April, the Orange County Register even ran a piece titled Leaving California, a 2022 guide to what state is best to move to. One native Californian moved to Nashville, Tennessee, told the New York Post. Finding a house was more difficult than anticipated, but we are extremely happy with where we live. We love our leafy, traditional community where the houses are spread out and private. It's family friendly. I wanted to settle down with my family in a traditional, safe, suburban community. In California, this American dream felt increasingly unobtainable. The average price of a house, I believe, in California is about $800,000. Pretty crazy. Someone said in Los Angeles, gas averages at about, you said $9? That's crazy. I actually didn't. People think this is crazy. Oh, and you were saying that people are walking more. At least that's a good thing. I didn't drive in Los Angeles. I purposefully moved to an area where I could walk everywhere. And I would just Uber if I needed to Uber, or I would rent a car, like if I needed one for a few days or something. But it ended up being it was a lot cheaper than having a car, and I got a lot more exercise because I walked everywhere. I had some friends that would literally get in their car and drive 2 blocks. That was not me. That's the one thing that I don't like about where I am, because if I leave the house, I have to drive everywhere. I didn't have to do that where I lived. I'm going back to, I know all of you think I'm crazy. I'm going back to LA sometime soon. I keep putting it off, but I will be going back sometime soon. Probably within the next few months for sure. I keep putting it off because it is nice to be around family. I'm saving so much money here. And so, and I also think I've just been writing out the politics in Los Angeles and waiting for things to turn around a little bit, which they are. So sometime soon. Tucker. Tucker Carlson, this is pretty funny. He is rather funny sometimes. He just said, "Tonight we are endorsing Kamala Harris for the 2024 Democratic primaries. She deserves it, and so do Democrats. They created her. They should be forced to live with her." Newport Beach. I've actually never been to I can't talk. Newport Beach. I will say I like the beach towns a little bit more. They're a lot more like family oriented, I think. It a lot more laid back than regular LA, and a lot more conservative as well. This is actually really interesting. So I used to live in West Hollywood, and LA Pride and West Hollywood was getting a lot of attention recently because of some of their pride antics. And I didn't realize this, but so LA Pride used to be held in West Hollywood, which is one of the biggest pride parades in all of the US. Well, they recently broke apart. Now it's LA Pride in Hollywood, and then it's WeHo Pride in West Hollywood. And I was curious as to why they broke up, because the main party used to always be in West Hollywood, which kind of makes sense because West Hollywood it was founded in 1984, and it's where all the gays live and thrive, where all the gay bars are. So it kind of makes sense that it's there. Well, apparently there was drama. Apparently, they wanted to separate, and a lot of people were criticizing. You guys will think this is funny. This is like the woke eating themselves. A lot of people were criticizing West Hollywood Pride as a cisgender white male party, and that they weren't inclusive enough to trans, to lesbians, to BIPOC individuals. I literally read that as why. So that's a thing that's happening. I found that rather interesting. Also, I don't know if you saw, but I can't unsee them. The images of Christina Aguilera performing at Pride LA, the one in Hollywood, and she wasn't looking so great. And she had on this green outfit with a full-on strap-on. And this was an all-ages event. At some point during her performance, she was doing things to the strap-on, and I'm thinking in my head, what has happened? And you have to understand, I lived in West Hollywood. I lived right in the middle of where Pride happened. I lived on the street where they would queue up the floats that would go down the parade. I used to love walking down the street during Pride, but it is becoming more and more degenerate. And not just that, but people are bringing their kids and exposing their kids to these things, where people are walking with their parts out, people are walking around in like kink outfits. And why would you bring your kids? Like, why are you, this is so highly inappropriate. And in my opinion too, like, somebody like Christina Aguilera wearing that on stage is not doing anything, in my opinion, to help that community. If you know what I mean. If I'm looking at that, and maybe I already have some kind of bias in my head, maybe I'm going to see that, and it is going to just confirm all of those prejudices. Because there are people that are prejudiced, prejudging an entire group of people. There are people, and if they see that as an introduction into what pride is, that is just going to confirm all of those prejudices. Prejudices. However you say that. So, it's just, yeah. You know, it used to be about, I loved going to Pride. It was just fun. I'm just a people person. I love any parade. I love parades. I love being around a lot of people. And it was in my neighborhood. So it was really funny because West Hollywood, they have like the biggest Halloween party, one of the biggest Halloween parties, Pride Festival. Basically all weekend during Halloween and Pride, you don't even try to drive anywhere. And it was really funny because when I moved there, I was sitting down with the property manager at my apartment building, and I was sitting down with him, like signing some papers, and he looked at me and he said, he got really serious all of a sudden. He goes, Pride Fest and Halloween. Just join it. Just join it. That's all you can do is just join it. But I will say, like, even walking down as sort of a spectator to all of it, it's not a place for kids. Like, that's an adult party. It's just not a place for kids. I don't know why there is this it's like, this is not appropriate for your kids. Here was we asked all 50 Democratic senators if they would endorse Joe Biden in 2024. Only 5 said yes. Who are the 5? Who are they? Hold on. The 45 other Democratic senators did not respond to several inquiries from the Daily Caller if they would endorse Biden in 2024. The Daily Caller also contacted the White House about the number of Democrat senators who said they would endorse Biden in 2024, to which they did not immediately respond. Every office was pinged multiple times, and they were given over 24 hours to respond. I want to know who they were. I don't think I would want them to know. Wait, oh. Huh. This is interesting. I've seen this happen several times before in the UK. Says first flight scheduled to take asylum seekers from the UK to Rwanda will not depart as planned Tuesday after a last-minute legal battle. So you have activists, Biden's UK, from UK to Rwanda. Yeah, it's interesting because they'll start to deport people. And you have these activists that will try to stop them from deporting people. Okay, it says yes, refugee NGOs, lawyers, ECHR managed to get each person off the plane one by one. People from Detention Action were arrested near the airfield as the time got closer, and it looked like a handful might be sent. Those damn NGOs. There was a really interesting story that happened a while back. There was a man that was being deported. I can't remember where he was going, but and I don't know why he was on a commercial plane. It was a commercial plane that he was on, and there were some, whatever the equivalent to ICE is in the UK. They were on the plane with him, and he was being deported back to his country. And you had these idiots on the plane who, I guess had their savior complex. These fake social justice warriors who raised hell and stopped him from being deported. Well, come to find, the reason he was being deported is because he basically kidnapped a young UK girl when she was like 15 or 16. He kidnapped her, held her hostage, and gang-ard, YouTube-friendly, her for a very long time. And this happened years ago. She had been working for years to get him out of the country and to be deported. He was there illegally. And finally that day came, and these idiot activists stopped him from being deported. She ended up writing a long anonymous op-ed in a publication that went viral. So that's why I can't stand it when these idiots do stuff like this. And I don't know if you remember, if any of you were on the live the other day, but we were talking about the effects of mass migration on the world as a whole, because nobody ever thinks about the countries that these individuals are coming from. There are 700 million people that live under $2 a day in the world. There are 1.9 billion people who live under $3.20 a day. Those are the poorest of the poor, right? The sickest, the poorest. None of those people are the ones that are coming into any of these countries illegally. Because the people that are doing that are people that are able-bodied enough to make that trek. They are people that have the funds to pay smugglers. If you're making less than $3 a day, you don't have the funds to pay a smuggler. So the people that are mass migrating to the UK and to the US and things like that are typically, work-aged, able-bodied, healthy people. And especially what happened in the UK is that a large number of the migrants were war-aged men. So you have these young, able-bodied men all leaving the sickest, the oldest, and the poorest in these countries. What happens with that? And these freaking idiot people, these idiot activists who don't have two brain cells, have no idea what they're doing. It was, I remember the president of El Salvador, speaking of Tucker Carlson was interviewing him, and he said, we really failed our people for a long time. The economy was really bad. We didn't have enough jobs. Crime was really bad. And he said, now, we worked really hard and we're fixing a lot of that. And the economy is getting better. Crime is getting better. There are more jobs. But then what happens is our able-bodied people leave and they all want to go to the U.S. So, you have this turnaround that's starting to happen, but then what happens when all your able-bodied people leave and they're not there? What do they leave behind? They leave behind, like I said earlier, they leave behind the sick, the elderly, the poor, and the criminals. That's who they leave behind. The Dalai Lama said, the best way to deal with mass migration is to take people in, educate them, and send them back to their countries so they can make their countries a good place, a better place. All right, you all. Well, I think I'm going to go for the night. Thank you for watching and thank you for joining. That was fun. I'll be live again tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern if you would like to join that one as well. Have a good night. I can see my cactus back there. Thank you for joining, you guys. There it is. I just bought that cool cactus. I like it. I can see it now. All right. Thank you again, everyone, and have a really good night. I will see you later. Get good rest. Okay, I have been watching that before I go. I've been watching this show. I need to stop. I don't think I can stop. I'm not going to stop. I've been watching this show. I think it's on A&E, and thank you very much. I think it's on A&E, and it's called I Survived. And it's real life people that have survived these just insane situations. Some of them were like abducted or kidnapped. One story was of it was a crew, and they were transporting, I think, like a yacht. So it was a crew that sailed. There was 4 of them, and they had to get this yacht from, I don't know, they had to take it down the East Coast. I can't remember where they were taking it. And I believe this was off the coast of the Carolinas. Well, it is scary, and I'm addicted to it. You can watch it for free on YouTube. So overnight, I don't know, they don't know what happened, but overnight it started to sink. And they had to get off the boat, go in their little dinghy, which was like a lifeboat. 4 crew members had to go in the dinghy, and the boat completely sank. They were on the water for 4 days before they got rescued. No, there were 5 of them total. I'm sorry, there were 5 of them total. They were in the water for 4 days before getting rescued. No water, no food. 3 of them died. 2 of them got eaten by sharks. They were in shark-infested water. And one of them died because she had severe wounds when she was trying to get off of the boat, and they got really infected. So I didn't know this, but apparently if you are ever stuck out at sea and you drink seawater, it makes you delirious. So one of the guys, he was drinking seawater, and I can't believe I didn't know that. One of the guys was drinking seawater, and it was either the next day or a few hours later, he said, "Look, there's land over there." And the main girl who was telling the story, she was like, there was no land. He was delirious at this point. And she said, "You never drink seawater. Everybody knows that." And she said, as soon as I saw them drinking the seawater, I was like, this is not good. So he thought he saw land. Really, there was nothing there. And he jumped into the shark-infested waters because she noticed, like, one of the first things that she noticed when they were on this little lifeboat, this dinghy, was there were just sharks everywhere all around them. So he jumped in the water and he starts swimming, and all of a sudden he screams a shark had gotten him and started eating him. Another guy, 2 of the guys drank the seawater. The other guy that drank the seawater one day was just like, I'm tired of this. I'm going to 7-Eleven to get some cigarettes and a drink. And he jumped in the water and immediately got eaten by sharks. That was one of the wild, I'm addicted to this show. That was one of the crazier stories. There's one where somebody was attacked by a grizzly bear, and I think I'm going to watch that later. Anyway. Thank you for watching. I will see you all later. I'll let you know if I watch the grizzly bear episode. That one's going to be tough. Oh, it's a blast. 4 days on a raft. 2 got eaten by sharks. At least they survived. Yeah. Out of the 5 people on that boat, though, only 2 of them survived. So note to self, if you are ever stranded at sea, do not drink the ocean water. It will make you go delirious. Okay. Bye, everyone. Have a good night. I'll see you later. Bye. Wait, how do I turn this off? Oh, yes. Here we go.